Hello and welcome to this Fotospeed video with me, Tim Jones, and I have the amazing Rachael Talibart, photographer, with me today. And we're going to be discussing how she started with photography and where she has been as well, because Rachael is an internationally exhibited artist as well and has amazing books that we're going to talk about as well. Before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to the Fotospeed YouTube channel and also click that subscribe button below. But please don't forget to sign up to the Fotospeed newsletter as well. I'll put a link in the description below, and also I've got Rachel's links in there as well. So don't forget to sign up to her newsletter as well, because go on Rachel's website and have a look, because I mean, yes, Rachael has regular workshops and things that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So that's a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. So you don't want to hear from me anyway, do you? You want to hear from Rachael. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to talk a little bit about where you started in photography and how you ended up in the position you are as well, because you're quite a renowned photographer now, and yeah, how you got there really. So were you always into photography, or was it something you came to a bit later, or how did you get into it basically?
Well, like a lot of people, I got bought a camera when I was a teenager. You're too young to remember, but they used to get these little cartridge cameras. There's the handle sort of folded down. There was like a case and it folded down and became a handle, and you had cartridge film that went in it, and you had flash cubes that you stuck on the top and you couldn't use them again. You know, you had 4 or 6, and once they were done, they were done. And I went on a school ski trip, and most of the group, including me, got food poisoning in this hostel that we were staying in. But I had it first. So while they were all poorly, I was better. I'd got better, but we couldn't ski. Everyone was, stuck in the hostel. So I went outside and walked around with this camera and took really bad photographs. Really bad. I don't even know where they are now, but they will have been wrongly exposed and everything. But I really loved doing it. And I didn't know enough then to know that they were bad. So when the prints arrived back, I was so excited to get them. And then it just became more and more a thing that I did whenever I was away. I became the designated photographer, and I loved it, fell in love with it. And then when I was in my early 20s, I did a round the world backpacking trip on my own.
Oh, wow.
Which makes me sound very sad and Billy No Mates, but I had a little compact camera with me, my first compact 35mm, no longer the cartridge film, but 35mm film, and it was lovely. If you see something beautiful, I always want to turn to someone and say, wow, look at that. I didn't have anyone with me, I was on my own, but taking a picture of it, taking a photo of it, was kind of a way of acknowledging that I'd seen it. It felt more than if I just saw it. It felt more significant. So I was definitely a happy snapper.
No, I get that.
But it was something that I really enjoyed, and it just grew and grew from that. But I didn't make it a career for many decades. Okay. It was a hobby. But obviously now that's changed.
Yeah. Was there a decision you decided you were going to kind of just dive into photography? Is that kind of a... Well,
I think for a lot of people, going digital was a bit of a game changer, because I'd never had a darkroom. I had really not had the opportunity to develop my own film. As a youngster, I was peripatetic, moving from place to place, flat shares in different parts of London, and you can never really have a space. You were sort of renting a room in someone else's house, so you couldn't have a darkroom. But digital gave me the opportunity to control the developing as well. And I think that's what was the game changer for me. And I went digital in 2008, and very quickly got sucked into the whole Flickr world back in those days, and just fell in love with photography all over again. Being able to control the ISO on a picture by picture basis, seeing the picture on the back of the camera while I was still out and could do it better if it didn't look right, learning the histogram, learning how to process the photographs. And there was no Lightroom then, so it's Photoshop Element 6 when I started.
It had everything you needed.
It really did. And I just fell in love with photography all over again. But I was doing other things with career-wise. I didn't go professional until 2016. But those first 8 years of digital were a really, really steep learning curve, and also a really steep climb in the amount of time that I was giving to photography, which made all the difference.
I think digital had a lot of, well, it had 50-50 kind of thing. I always think it kind of opened up photography for a lot of people. And it just gave that, you could, like you said, you could just see it. It's a great teaching tool, digital. It's a great kind of editing and things like that as well. I actually remember Elements 1.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, when I was at college. So, yeah, I think it did have that impact, but also it had that other side of it with the industry side of things as well, perhaps. Because, of course, it just opened up a lot more competition, which isn't a bad thing. It just pushed everyone on and higher standards, and the standard just gets higher and higher. Yeah. But, of course, it just opened up. And we might not have even seen your amazing work if digital hasn't come along. And
it's quite possible I would never have, I would never have taken it that further step.
When was it that you realised that you could display work and kind of produce books and things like that? You said you went professional in 2016.
Sort of end of 2015, beginning of 2016. I sort of made a decision in the middle of 2015, or about April 2015, that I was going to give it a go. And then I got carried away because I can be quite impulsive. And I decided to do a solo exhibition. So that was going from 0 to 60 in no time at all. That was insane.
I think sometimes that's the best way. It's because people say, how do you do an exhibition? Book a gallery and do it.
Exactly.
It's kind of, you just got to do it. You'll learn on the way, kind of thing.
And I did. I learned so much. There were some really scary moments, like when there was only 2 weeks to go and the gallery said, actually, we don't think you've got enough frames for the space. We need 20 more. Cool. So I was hanging 20. They wanted 40, and they told me with less than 2 weeks to go. That sort of thing was stressful in the extreme, but I got through it, and I learned more than I can say, really. And by the end of it, I had newfound confidence, not only in my work, and feeling that people would like it too, which, for all that we might say, make photos for yourself, no one else matters, that's not entirely realistic, and we do care what other people think about our work.
Yeah, but I think in yourself, I always think that if you can justify it a little bit, maybe it's the academic side coming out in me that's what you had to do, just stand up in front and while your work was torn apart by people.
Yes.
And you walk away and go, oh God. But I think as long as you could justify it, and eventually you will come round, I think, if people. But it's finding that audience as well for the work, isn't it, as well? And accepting that not everyone's going to like it.
I think that's important. I think if you try to make work hoping that everyone will like it, you're going to make safe work. You're going to make vanilla work, because if it's interesting work, it's probably going to be more Marmite. There are going to be people who love it and people who really, really don't. So for that, I definitely think that's a danger. You don't want to make vanilla work. But I think as someone who's just starting out or trying or aspirational to move to a different stage, to have the experience of people coming, seeing your work on walls and actually liking it and buying it is a tremendous confidence boost. And that's what I got out of that first solo show. It was not profitable. I broke even, which means I sold quite a lot because the framing was really expensive. And the gallery took 50%, and I had to pay them to frame the work as well. So they did very well. But for me, what I got out of it beyond money was treasure. You know, I got the experience. I now knew that I could do it, and that's a huge boost to your confidence. And I went back to making photos with renewed confidence.
Do you think that affected the style as well? Do you think that informed things? Do you think that kind of subconsciously was there, like, oh, I'm trying to think of how to put this.
No, I don't mind how you put it. Go for it.
But it kind of informed because you thought, well, that one sold really well. Do you think that comes into the work now? It's like people tell me that they put a picture up on Instagram and it gets likes and things. I know it's a big struggle, and I know we were talking before we started recording about it and things, and how it's not the way. You shouldn't produce work for that platform, I suppose, but it could inform you very subconsciously underneath, perhaps.
Yeah, I actively work against that because I don't think that's a healthy way to go forward. I don't think, for example, let's use Instagram because that's my main social media. I don't think you can make an informed decision on success based on how many likes or comments you get on a picture, because it depends on so many other things, like even the day of the week and the time that you posted it, what other people happen to be doing, what the weather's like. If your main audience is in the UK and you post on a sunny Saturday in the summer, no one's going to see it because they're all at the beach, right?
Yeah. Well, I noticed that this weekend, actually.
Yeah, exactly. It was really quiet. It was really quiet. Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't just me.
And it's not because of the photographs. Or the content. It's because no one's online, and that's probably good for us all. So I think that's a really dangerous route to take to test the success of your work by its reception on social media. I didn't allow what sold at the exhibition to influence what I made going forward, because actually it was suddenly having to come up with 20 more pictures. It was pretty eclectic. I've got pictures of that exhibition, and now I look at it, I think, wow, there's a lot of eclectic different work there. There's even a very orange autumn colour woodland scene, which is so not what I do now. And that sold. So no, I managed not to let that influence me, and I just kept going with work that pleased me, but with more confidence now that maybe it would please other people.
That's the thing, I think, kind of boosts you up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you one of the people that, or a type of person, me included, I suppose, in this as well, that when a piece of work is done, there's a definite line drawn, and you're like, it's done. I always remember watching something by Scott Walker, and I've said it before, and others, so sorry, that I remember he used to listen to the album when it was finished, and it had to be at a certain volume, quite loud, and they always said, the record executives would say, oh, can you just turn it down a bit because we want to have a conversation about it? He said, no, because it's the only time I'm going to listen to it.
Wow.
And he literally listened to it then, and that was it. Line drawn, start on the next. I mean, that's the extreme. I wouldn't say that most people do that, because it's quite nice to look back through and things and kind of take a little bit of something. But do you think you're one of those kind of drawn lines?
Not really. Because I work on projects rather than single photographs. In fact, if I do make a photograph that I really like and it doesn't fit in a project, I'm frustrated. You know, I want the work to fit into projects. Everything I do really is project oriented. And you can always add another picture to an existing project. So I will have lots of projects on the go. Having said that, I have drawn a line under one of my projects, my most well-known project, because I think you can, you don't want to be just bashing out more of the same material.
Or known just for that.
Yeah, I exactly. Although I'm more concerned about what keeps me excited creatively than about what I'm known for. And for me, it's ultimately not rewarding to feel like I'm just bashing out more of the same work because I know other people like it. I'd rather push on and innovate and come up with some new ideas, and that for me is exciting. You know, if I make a photo and I see it afterwards, I think, whoa, okay, wow, where could that go? That photo might not even be published, but it's given me an idea, and that's exciting then, and I want to run off on a tangent and go down a rabbit hole and see where that takes me.
And then hit the dead end.
And you might, exactly, and you'll ping back, but maybe that whole exploration that you did, even if you hit a dead end, maybe you have grown as a creator through that experience, and it's going to inform whatever it is you do next.
Yeah, you've hit a dead end, but it's not wasted.
No,
that
exactly.
And that's why I think a lot of people don't think of things like that really, but just, oh God, I spent like a month doing this, and it's all just there. But you've learned so much in that time. You've learned perhaps another technique or something as well. But we do have to talk a little bit about sirens, I'm afraid.
I know, it's okay. I don't mind.
Because like you said, that's kind of your breakthrough work, and the one you're most known for, is that fair to say?
I think so.
Which is seascapes, is that the word to say?
Yeah, I think they're seascapes. Yeah, that's okay. I'm cool with that.
All the waves
seascapes.
But it was all based in Greek mythology as well, wasn't
Yes.
it? And I mean, some of the pictures, I mean, you can even see them coming through in the waves with faces and things as well. Which I just, wow. Every time I look at them, I'm still kind of looking at them and things. But I know you're moving on. But I just wanted to say that. And Rachel's got this amazing new book out, which is the last book of Sirens. Is that right?
Yes.
It's kind of the coffee table edition. Is that fair to say, kind of thing? The definitive gallery edition, it said, but which is a fabulous book as well, absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
When you handed it to me in the plastic, I was so scared to take the plastic off. Someone else totally had to do it in the office, so because it is just beautiful, and I'll show you some B-roll and things of this as well. So going through it and things, but absolutely stunning. But with Sirens, you were doing different work before, or was it always you went down to the beach and kind of did bits like this, and then you thought, actually, just got more and more, I suppose?
Well, I always wanted to be making photos at the coast. During sort of 2010 to 2015, 2014 maybe, I was doing more work inland because I actually live inside the M25. So, I'm really in a suburb of London, not at the coast. And I had kids at home, I had to be there for coming home from school and things like that. So I was working locally, although water was still a huge part of my work because we have the Thames and the Way navigation, so lots of freshwater locations. But I always wanted to be at the coast. That's always been in my heart. I grew up on the coast. So as my youngest child grew up and needed me less and less, and then learned to drive and really needed me less and less, I started going to the coast, and I got to the point where I really stopped making photos anywhere else. And what was interesting to me, although I do coastal landscapes, pictures with the white cliffs and things like that, but what was really at the core of what I was interested in was the water itself, the sea. And I think it's always a good thing actually to ask yourself, what is it you're really interested in? And try and narrow in. So, you stand in a beautiful scene and you think, this is lovely. And then ask yourself, what is that thing in the scene that I really love? What's my favourite thing? And then sort of narrow in on that. And then think, well, what about this? Why do I like this? Why do I want to photograph this? Because I think that can really help you find your voice. And when I looked at the sea, it just took me straight back to my childhood, sailing and being stuck in the cockpit in storms and watching the waves and being fascinated by all the crazy shapes that they made. So during 2015, I started going down to Newhaven, which is in East Sussex, and I started going every week, sometimes twice a week. Every time there was even a hint of a blow, if the wind was gusting 40 or more, you get the black symbol in BBC weather. I would go down there, and I wasn't making particularly interesting photographs with hindsight, although I was pleased with them at the time. But they look like everyone else's, everyone does. You've probably been there. There's a quay that goes out into the sea, and there's a little lighthouse on the end. And if there's a storm, one of the newspapers will always carry a picture of a wave breaking over the lighthouse. So I was doing that sort of thing, and I was not satisfied because I knew that every time there was a storm, there'd be a picture that looked just like mine in the newspaper. And it didn't feel original or interesting. So I needed to think harder, and but just exactly what we were saying about a tangent, a dead end, not being a waste of time. Even though none of those photos, I've never published them, they're just hidden on my hard drive somewhere. None of that time was wasted because I was always refining my ideas there. and also very practically getting to know the location and understanding what works there, what conditions would bring what, and how the sea would interact with the landscape there. So that when finally in February 2016, we got a really epic storm with good light, which is rare, I was ready. I knew what I wanted, which was no longer to photograph the lighthouse and the wave breaking over it in a little figure for scale, but actually just to photograph these amazing waves that you get there that make crazy shapes because they're crashing into each other, and just isolate them and fast shutter. The person I often shared my trips to the coast with at that time, we carpooled, she was always working slow shutter, but I wanted to just go super fast and just freeze all the details and just the crazy shapes the waves were making. And that's how Sirens was born, really. I have to say, still that day, the 8th of February 2016, which sticks in my memory to this day, Storm Imogen is probably still the best fun I've ever had with a camera in my life. Yes.
Oh, wow. So do you think most of the pictures were taken on that, or was it a period of time?
There were other storms later. There was another really big one in October 2017. Interestingly, by then I'd already published many, a big part of the portfolio to that date had been published. We had a book ready to go. And then this storm came along, Storm Brian, which isn't a very stormy name somehow.
Actually, no.
I don't think of Brians as stormy people. The first one was Storm Imogen, and that seemed somehow more stormy, but anyway.
Storm Nigel or something as well. But
again, I think of Brians and Nigels as nice, cosy people. And anyway, it doesn't really matter.
No. Apologies for any Imogens, but...
Well, Imogen is a sort of tempestuous diva-like name, yes, I feel. Sorry, Imogens, but I don't think that's a bad thing to be either.
No.
But anyway, I went, by then, I had published, pictures from Imogen that I'd taken had been published in magazines, the newspaper, they were right out there. Went down on I think it was 21st of October 2017, and the beach was heaving with other photographers. There was even one photographer who stood just sort of behind my shoulder and all but rested his long lens on my shoulder.
Did they know who you were?
Yes. Yeah, the work was out there. Yeah. You know, it had the double page spread in Outdoor Photography magazine. It was all over the internet, it had gone viral. And so loads more people were doing it. But I kept going. Storm Brian was different. For some reason, there was green in the waves. Storm Imogen was mainly grey. Storm Brian had green sea, so I changed the look slightly to allow for the green, captured a load more pictures for Sirens. And then there've been a few other storms since, but I go far less often now. And eventually this book, I think, is me drawing a line under it. You know, if I'm free and there's a massive storm down there and it's not at the weekend or in the holidays, I might, if I'm free, nip down just for fun.
Yeah, for yourself.
Yeah. But I have to move on, because I think if you just keep bashing out the same old stuff, you will end up in a rut. And I don't want to be there.
And it's, you think you do end up in that rut, I suppose, occasionally, don't you? And you think, and you can't break through, and you kind of, but it will happen. It sticks with you, doesn't it? It does happen. And I know a lot of people that kind of get this almost creative traffic jam, isn't it? Almost. I know I do anyway. I don't know if you have the same. And you think, then you've got to do those little routes and dead ends and just see where you are and come through it as well. And sometimes you might just be shooting and not understand what is happening, and have to actually sit down and think, okay, and take some time and look at it and just go with it in some cases. I
think it is tough, that rut. I've got a lot of clients who come to me because they feel they're in a rut. And I think we're all different, so the solution isn't going to be the same for everybody. For some people, in fact, I was chatting to someone the other day who took 6 months off photography. And as he's a professional photographer, that was quite a brave move, and he felt he had to, because he wasn't happy with where he was. And he came back afterwards with renewed energy and is doing new and different and interesting work. For me, that's probably not the right answer for my brain. I think actually I have to just go out and keep making bad photos until I happen upon a good one.
Something happens.
Yes, because I get all my ideas while I'm out making photos. It's not going to happen to me sitting at home.
No, it's different headspace, isn't
Exactly.
it? It's not. There's too much going on at home and things, and it could be just going out for a walk with a camera, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
like that, and just kind of getting those ideas. But I mean, Sirens has been your signature, I suppose, for so many years, hasn't it now? And it's been super successful for you as well. And it's just fabulous. If you haven't seen it, well, go to Rachel's website and have a look. I know there's a section there.
Yes.
Unless you're drawing a line completely.
No. I don't think the galleries would like that.
I do know photographers who have done that actually.
Yes.
But we'll...
No, I'm not going there.
No, because you mentioned
I'm not going to kill the golden
goose.
goose.
No, because that's your work mainly in the galleries.
Yes.
At the minute.
Yes.
At the minute. That sells, and you sell all over the world.
Yes.
Representation, which we're going to do a whole separate video on gallery representation with Rachel, because Rachel has some great insights on how to get started to do that as well, that I'm very interested in as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but you've got representation in Europe and the US and
the UK.
Yeah. And you work in editions as well.
Yes, limited editions, yeah.
So they're in different sizes as well.
So I'm not necessarily going to encourage others to adopt the way I've done it, because it turns out it's quite complicated to explain to collectors for whom English may not be their first language.
Okay, yeah.
So I think probably the best move is to keep it simple, which I didn't, but now I'm stuck with it. So I do 2 editions of 12. One small format, so there's a sort of maximum size, and one large format. So sizes are variable within those.
Okay.
And the reason for doing that was so that you don't just sell tiny prints. You need to reserve some for the big prints, because you can charge more for the big prints. So that seemed like a good plan at the time, but it has proved really complicated to explain to people. What I would probably do if I could go back and do it again is I would just say 1 edition of 25, sizes variable, and just have a price list for different sample sizes, and not have these 2 editions, because it gets so complicated. And then you're allowed sort of 2 or 3 artist proofs as well, which I usually keep one for myself. And then we sell the other 2 at the end when the edition's sold out. It's very important to be really clear with buyers, those parameters, because it's part of what you're selling. So if someone asks, can I buy a print of any picture, I or the galleries will explain how the editions work, and that there may be a couple of APs at the end. So the client knows how many prints there are going to be made of this work before they pay a lot of money for it.
We should probably say how editions actually work for the people out there kind of thinking, we're talking about editions, what do they, how do you do it? Because I know editions are normally like your set of 12, and the price increases as the edition is sold through.
Yeah.
So you might start at, just go pick a number, like a nice round number, like £100, and by the end it's 1,500, 2,000 for the 12th. Is that kind of how it goes up?
I mean, the numbers are a lot higher than that.
Yeah,
but
no, I just picked a nice round number so I could work it out in my brain.
Yes, exactly right. And the last 2 APs would be the most expensive prints in the edition to sell.
Okay.
But there are some collectors who will only collect APs. And there are some collectors who will only collect number 1 of an edition. Collectors are interesting people, and they have their parameters. If they're true collectors, they have parameters. So you're trying to not close down those potential buyers by how you create your editions. But obviously, if it's a collector only will buy one of the edition, number 1, and you've already sold that, then they're done. But maybe they'll buy a different picture.
Do you have a nice list of those?
Well, the galleries do.
The galleries do, yeah.
Yes, so then they can let them know, wow, there's this new piece of work come out, and you've got a shot at number 1. And if they like it, great, they'll go for it.
They're taking a bit of a commission, aren't they, on your work?
Galleries take 50%. And out of your 50, the artist's 50% come the costs of production. So you have to pay for, obviously there's all the costs of you capturing the picture in the first place, and then you have to pay for printing and framing. So I don't actually begrudge the galleries that though, because out of their chunk, they're accounting for VAT on on the 100% price, on the retail price. And they've got massive overheads.
Yeah.
They're running a physical space. All of the galleries that I work with one exception now, are running physical gallery. They have staff, they have fuel bills, they have, they have a lot to account for out of their 50%. So I know some people complain, but I actually don't think it's unfair. I think it's a reasonable deal.
Yeah, when you look at it like that,
yes,
you can understand why it's 50%. Because when you say 50%, it's like, oh, that's a lot.
I know, it seems a lot, and it is a lot when you're the artist.
And they are doing quite a lot of work behind the scenes for you as well.
Yeah, they are, and some do more than others, which is why it's good to get a feeling for a gallery before. Well, we're now moving on to that, which we were going to do in a later video. But anyway.
Yeah, we need to watch that other video. So
yes, we'll talk more about galleries later. But the editions, it's interesting because I do offer in I think there's 8 pictures in total in my portfolio where there's an open edition option. So the limited edition, there's only 12 instead of 24. One edition of 12 instead of 2 editions of 12.
Okay.
And at A3, it's kind of A3 plus size, 42 centimetres on the long edge, there is an open edition that is quite a lot cheaper. We don't sell that many.
No, everyone wants the...
People want to pay more for exclusivity.
And your big prints are quite big, aren't they, as well?
In America. So, actually, even in the UK, there's one at the moment, I think they've taken it out of the window now because they've got an exhibition on for one person. But the gallery that represents me in Deal have got a 1.5 metre print of one of my waves for sale at the moment, number 12 of 12. So we do print big, but mostly the really big ones sell in the USA. They have a taste for big prints there.
I suppose they've just got bigger houses in general, probably.
Maybe.
Bigger wall space.
And it's a bigger country, and I don't know. But anyway, that we tend to sell, I think one of the most popular sizes in the UK is 1 metre, not 1.5, so there's a difference.
We want to move on from sirens, don't we? And you said you've drawn a line underneath it, and it's been hugely successful for 8 years? More, 6 years?
It's 8 years now, isn't it? Yeah.
Sounds a bit scary when you say that.
I know. Time is moving on.
I've been at Fotospeed 6 years, so I suppose it must have been on...
Yeah, well, I'm coming up to a big anniversary for my workshops company.
Okay.
My workshops business will be 10 in September, which is kind of fun. I can't believe that, a whole decade.
I know. It goes quick.
It does.
I said to someone, just said to someone the other day about something, and I was like, that was 15 years ago.
Anyway, never mind.
But I should also say, you touch on your workshops and things, because Rachel does fabulous workshops in
thank
everything, really. I mean, we have so many customers phoning us and saying, I've been on a workshop with Rachel, it's fabulous. I want to buy a printer, or I want to kind of do printing workshops.
Yeah, we've just done a whole week of that last week, yes.
Which is...
I love print. I love printing.
And you're not a massive fan of the social media thing, but it's a necessary
it's a necessary evil. But I could do better, but I don't.
I think you do all right, actually.
I don't know. I don't try as hard as I should, probably, but life's too short. I've got other things to do.
Yeah, it's all right. But you also do actual photography workshops as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And bookmaking more as
well? Yes, we do. We do handmade books, courses, printing courses, processing courses, and one of the things I'm really, really enjoying kind of came in with COVID, which is more the sort of creative mentoring, which I very much enjoy.
Yeah, that sounds it.
I've had the privilege of working with some amazing photographers on those courses, and I'm just really super proud of what they're achieving.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it's always nice to give back a little bit of space as well. I know they're paying, but...
Well, they do have to pay for it, yes. I'm not free. But, I throw my all into that because there's something incredibly enjoyable about working with a photographer over a long period, 2 years, 3 years, some of them. And once they've finished the sort of distance learning long-term course with me, they never stop being a mentee. And once a year I reach out to them, use the American expression that I quite like. I reach out to them and I say, shall we have a Zoom call? And I just see what they've been up to, and they are, they get some more advice if they want it. And it's just really nice to, they become friends, really.
Yeah, they do. Not like, I haven't been on one off, but it's, you kind of get that. At least that's something a little bit French. What's your opinion or something, I suppose, in some cases.
And it's just, they can be working in all genres. I've had someone who's more of a documentary photographer do this long-term mentoring with me. It doesn't really matter what genre they're working in for me. And I can't even say how much I love it, because I have seen so much growth and so much confidence build in those photographers. And the ones who've graduated, I've got 2 catch-up meetings coming up actually for people who graduated a year ago. And since then, their photography has just soared. And it's just so exciting to see that and to see the joy it's bringing them.
Oh, fantastic. I think that's great. But with your workshops, you partner, don't you, with
I do.
Adrian,
Beasley, it's only, actually, no, it's not only Adrian. So just to explain, Adrian Beasley and Clea Beasley work with me on the printing workshops, the processing work, the classroom workshops, basically, the handmade books, and some of the online, more short-term mentoring, either day courses, or we do a 6-month photo project group, which is hugely popular. The long-term mentoring I do on my own, and then the location workshops I do on my own. But then I also do residential workshops for Ocean Capture, which is Jonathan Critchley's business. And I've done did one with Jonathan, Hans Strand, Sandra Bartoka. I never pronounced that right. Sorry, Sandra. And the great Ragnar Axelsson. So that was amazing. And we've got one coming up in Venice in January that I'm doing with Jonathan and Rowan Riley. So I do quite like working with other people.
Yeah, I'd quite like to see how you shoot Venice, actually.
Yeah, well, I've been to Venice many, many times.
So stray away from the classic.
I think so. I think so, because we can all do those. We'll definitely do those as well.
I've got a set of pictures at home in Venice, because they have the art biennale every 2
years. Yes, that's
now.
right.
And I went one year to actually see it all. And then the following year, I went back to Venice and I photographed it all empty. And as you imagine, it all goes to rack and ruin when the biennale is not on.
Yeah.
And I've never done anything with them, but they're still there. But those pictures are kind of the other side of Venice that you don't really see.
I think people they think Venice is just St Mark's Square and the Rialto Bridge and the road, the streets between them, and that's where all the tourists are, which is quite nice, because that means everywhere else is quiet. So as long as you don't go to those places, you can really get away from people and find some really quiet corners.
Some lovely bits in the student bit.
Yes, absolutely.
We won't talk too much about Venice,
because
we want to talk about your new work.
Okay.
Because, like I say, you've drawn a line under Sirens. That's kind of not finished, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a big part of your work and your portfolio, I suppose, as well. But you are shooting different work now. Is the different work? Are you still trying to find your little bit of a path with it, or are you different projects you've got going on?
I've got different projects going on. In my head, I've got 2 more books in me.
Okay.
I'm going to wait until we finish selling that before I do any more.
Oh, I should say this is available on Rachel's website.
Through the galleries listed on my website. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So click the link below and find the galleries, and it's all you'll see all the pricing and the options there as well. Yeah,
while stocks last.
Yes, because this is I should say it's a limited run, isn't it?
Yeah, very limited. Yeah, there's only 100 of those and 75 of the super expensive deluxe one in a box with a print and all of that. Okay. So when they're gone, they're gone.
Yes.
That's it, done.
That's it. So what are the projects you're working on?
Yeah, so the 2 books that I've actually got in collections in Lightroom ready to go. Okay. One's called Sea Change, and that is much more intimate coastal photographs. verging on the abstract. So some details, some abstract. And it's work that I've been working on since 2014. So, for example, this picture here, which is just a little bit of chalk and some sea foam on the beach, that actually, I think I made that picture in 2015, but didn't publish it until now because it wasn't part of a project. It just sat there. I knew I liked it. Now I'm gathering together more and more pictures of these really close, they call them intimate or small scenes, right? So, sand patterns like this one. And then also this, which actually is a portrait format photograph, which is just sea foam moving on the sand with a bit of light on it just before the sunset. And I really like it. It's just a bit different, I think.
Beautiful. I have apologies to Rachel. I always put this one the wrong way around.
You do, but I've forgiven you for it.
And that's the wrong way on the print stand out in our foyer, and I just thought,
well, it's okay. I forgive you. But actually, it would work this way around because it's like mountains now, right? But for me, in my head, it's that way, and I can't tell you why. It just is.
It just is. Yeah. And we should, as we're talking about some prints on here, because I know prints are really important. You obviously are an ambassador for us.
Yes.
And work with us.
Thank you. I am very pleased to be.
No, well, we are
It's
very
the only
grateful.
ambassadorship that I do now.
Okay.
Dropped all the rest, keeping this one.
Yes. Well, you print on our paper, and you print on a couple of different papers, don't you?
Yeah.
A few different papers, because this one here is the Legacy, I believe.
Legacy gloss, yes. So the first time we used this paper was on one of our print workshops a couple of years ago. I think it was new then.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's very warm. It's not my look. And then we had one client called Barry Brown. Some people may know because he's quite well known in the RPS, who had a beautiful picture of a sort of yellow vase with some mimosa, I think, blossoms in it against a textured sort of ochre wall, I think. And he printed it on Legacy gloss. And I just thought, wow, it was amazing. So I started using it myself for pictures like this with this sort of bronze colours and the gold colours.
It works really well.
And the paper just shines through in these pale areas. And I'm really pleased with it. So it's joined the stable of my papers that I use.
Because you use NST Bright White quite a bit as well.
All my black and white work, with no exceptions, is on NST Bright White.
It's a high white point, really.
Well, it's black and white, not black and cream, right?
Yes.
So for me,
true.
I have to put it on a white paper. It's got a really subtle texture through it that doesn't intrude in. So this one is on it. It doesn't intrude in the plain areas where the sky is.
No.
So I think a heavily textured paper would get in the way there.
Sometimes it's that hierarchy, I always say.
Yeah.
Image first, paper second.
Exactly. And the two working. One of the things I think is really why I love print is that alchemy of, that change that comes about when you put your print on the right paper.
Yes.
And you only know what's the right paper by trying a few different ones. But the other thing I really like, I think that the blacks, people often say that matte blacks just aren't black enough. I think put it on NST Bright White and you'll change your mind.
Yeah.
I think the blacks are really, that's a nice deep black. So, I love matte paper for black and white. I don't like glossy myself.
No, I do actually. It's probably my go-to, really.
Yeah.
I know you can use platinum etching as well.
Yeah, this one, sand patterns, because it's got a lovely subtle, again, it'd be hard to see here, but it's got a lovely subtle texture through it, slightly more granular somehow, which in my head goes with sand. And it's warmer, not a lot warmer, but warmer. Which for a picture like this is just fine. So I don't use it as often, but I really like it when I do.
And you also use a Harmony paper.
Yes.
The Fine Art Pearl.
Fine Art Pearl.
Which is, I have to say, it's beautiful as well. I mean,
it's a lovely paper. Well, exactly. They're all beautiful. All of my, people tend to think Sirens are all black and white. Actually, most of them are colour. There aren't that many black and white pictures in Sirens, but desaturated colour. And they depend a lot on really fine gradients. In the sky, there's a lot of plain skies because I don't want the sky to compete with the wave for our attention. So plain skies with subtle gradients. And I find this paper renders subtle gradients really smoothly, really smoothly. It's got another subtle texture through it, and it's only just glossy.
Yeah, because it's that pearl.
Yeah.
So that it's only very slightly gloss, which is,
and it's quite cool.
Gorgeous.
It's quite a cool paper. I mean, in its tone. It's not the high white of NST, but it is very neutral and cool. Almost, it's not grey, but it's a sort of colder white, I think. If you, not sure we'll be able to see it here, but it's definitely cooler than that. And so it also suits, this is an ice texture.
I was going to say, because you've got some, I want to say a bit more landscape shots, I suppose.
Yeah,
Is that fair,
so the other book is going to be a black and white book.
Lovely.
So the subject then doesn't matter. It can be anything that's black and white. So I would think in sea change, with one or two exceptions, they'll mostly be colour pictures because it's really about the art that the sea creates. I'm just recognising that art, if you like, and sharing it. And I love the fact that it's so ephemeral. You know, these patterns only ever existed in that moment. They will never be seen again because the sea will just come in and go out and everything changes. The black and whites will be more general. And I think that allows me to bring in things like this, which is from Antarctica. As is this. Don't know what I'm going to do with this. This is a whole other portfolio. I'm getting very excited now, which is, this is actually an iceberg. So more,
did you go on your own or was it part of a group?
I've been twice. I went this year and last year.
Oh, amazing.
And last year I was working. I was on a workshop with a host of familiar names. Brendan Van Soen, Simon Baxter, loads of others, the Mike Metz, the volcano guy. And I had a blast. I loved it so much that I wanted to come back on my own. Well, with my lovely husband. Yes.
Has to take a lot. Carry the bag, doesn't it?
No, carry my own bag. Watch it. No, but he didn't come the first year because he said, "Oh, you'll be working." So we went to Patagonia first, and then he went home, and I joined the ship. And the whole time I was on the ship, I was thinking, Peter should be here. Peter would love this. So I decided to go the following year just as a tourist, and Pete came along, and that was in February, just gone. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. We have better light. I love it. And if the carbon footprint of going to Antarctica weren't so high, and if it didn't matter, I would go every year. So I love Antarctica. It's a beautiful place. And the things that I measure in there, because I'm not a wildlife photographer, you know, I don't ignore the penguins. That would be rude. They are lovely. And the whales and the seals and all the other birds.
You've got a couple of pictures.
Yeah, I have.
For my own album.
Exactly. But for serious work, it's the icebergs, which I always knew I would love. And then the mountains. And this is going to make me sound like a twerp, probably. That's okay. I don't mind being a twerp. When I first went to Antarctica, I was expecting all the things we've just mentioned, except for mountains. For some reason in my head, it was just this vast white plain of ice.
I suppose you do,
And where the boats go, which is the Antarctic Peninsula, the mountains are mind-boggling. Utterly mind-boggling. You'd be travelling along on your boat or in your Zodiac or whatever, you know, the ship, and you see this incredible peak and you think, wow, that's immense. And they're very charismatic. They sort of look like they are kind of part of the Andes, actually. So they have this sort of charismatic, craggy feel. So you're like, whoa, that's amazing. And look at this enormous glacier that's just hanging over us. And then the clouds part, and there's something enormous. An absolutely immense mountain is briefly revealed over and way bigger than the mountain you were thinking was immense. And then the clouds just close again and it disappears, and it's creepy, but in a really cool way.
Okay.
So I got completely hooked on the mountains. I'm not a mountain photographer. I have no reputation as a mountain photographer. If I became a mountain photographer, all the publicity and my branding would come to naught because I'm known as an ocean photographer. But then does that matter? And that's the question I ask myself. And maybe for me to be creative and fulfilled, it's more important that if my mind is saying, do mountains, I just jolly well do mountains. So that's where I am.
Yeah. Does the subject, I suppose, brand-wise, marketing-wise, I suppose, it's kind of probably, but for creative-wise and as an artist, it doesn't really, because you're going to have the same viewpoint. And I mean, they are absolutely stunning, these pictures, by the way, obviously, because Rachel took them. So they're stand up to anyone's, I think.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Well, that's really nice of you to say.
No, really. I mean, I'm not a landscape, I can't do landscape, so I'm in awe of that.
Yet.
Yeah, they keep trying to take me out. Yeah, I mean, the light and things, it's...
Well, I think I'm photographing the mountains like waves. So I'm not showing the base of the mountain. I'm not doing the wide view. In fact, on this trip, this last trip, I worked with a 180 to 600 millimeter lens on the camera, and I just left that lens on the camera for the whole trip. And actually, I really loved that as well. The simplicity of that, you know, just committing to that one lens for the whole trip. So because waves are just moving mountains, really, aren't they? So I think I'm photographing the mountains like sirens and having fun.
Now you said that, you are. It's the form, isn't it? It's. I see it as you're very form photographer.
Yeah, I like triangles.
Yeah, and it comes through. I mean, like you said, the waves and sirens, they are water mountains. I suppose they do have those amazing things, and also with the clouds as well and things towards the spray and stuff like that. I think.
Yeah.
So it's and the colour work as well with the in here again it is form.
It is, and also I like to keep scale ambiguous. I don't put references in for scale.
No, I know we've talked about how big the waves were.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't. No, you just would not know how.
And you know, here this is called Valley of Ice. You've no idea really how big that is. It could be a tiny detail, or it could be, it could be a scene from Game of Thrones, and there's a tiny little man going to walk through here. You know, either works, and I like that ambiguity. So with these sand patterns, for example, I posted one not long ago on Instagram, and someone said, "Did you use a drone?" But no, I mean they're just tripod height, but people can't tell.
No.
And I like that. I want that to be ambiguous.
Less typography. And more, I think with scale, if you put someone in, it goes slightly into that typography kind of thing. You're recording it more, aren't you?
I think, yes. And I think also, I agree with you. And I think, moreover, you already immediately, if you put a reference for scale in, you close down the viewer's possibilities of interpretation. Now, I want people to be able to interpret my work. I want to leave things vague, because that's when the viewer's imagination gets involved. And that's more interesting to me than being able to, I don't want to make my work easy to understand. I want people to have to think. And sometimes you lose people. You know, if you work that way, people are going to misunderstand or not understand at all and be impatient. That's a price I'm willing to pay, I think.
Yeah. No, it's a good prospect because, it just opens up massive possibilities. And you as the artist, do your intentions matter?
No.
It's the viewers, if they like it and appeal to it and things, I think. Well, that's what I think anyway. And a few other people, including yourself. I know Bath has written whole essays on it.
Oh, yes. I had to study him at university. Somewhat impenetrable essays.
The Death of the Author is the one you
Yes, that's my favourite.
Yeah, and mine. It's kind of talking about text in the essay, but it's applied to art as well. And being ambiguous and removing the author, you've no control over what's happening. So just let go. But, I'm really excited to see these projects.
Thank you.
Because it's definitely you. So I wouldn't worry about it. It's not waves.
No.
I think it's definitely you and projects and things. It's going to be, I think they're going to be great.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm enjoying the work. So that's the main
thing, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
But it gets a bit of a slog, and I always find time for me is just
Oh yeah, well,
I've
yeah.
got 3 young children, so it's kind of fitting in 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there.
It's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that stage where I only had 2, but I do remember how much hard work it is, and you've got 3.
Yeah, I had twins.
Oh my goodness! Well, respect.
But I've taken them with me most of the time, which is quite good. They're fun, anyway. But yeah, digress. But it's a really nice place to probably leave it there, actually, because we're going to do a couple of other videos explaining what galleries and things a bit more, and books as well, because I think how you make books and things is fabulous, and the way you've done it as well, working with printers and things. So I hope you enjoyed that. A massive thank you to Rachel for coming along and spending time with us today. But if you want to check out all of Rachel's work, just use the link below to her website and look. And like I said, there's print sales on there and book sales through your galleries as well. But there's links on the website how to do all that as well. So on that note, we'll end. And don't forget to subscribe to the Fotospeed YouTube channel. Links below, and also sign up to the newsletter as well. Again, link in the description. But on that note, again, another massive thank you to Rachel. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.